evening, this is the Eclectic News Network. My name is Brian Budd, and today we are going to be talking about trends in the news. We're going to be talking about financials, news around the world, and what's going on in the world today. So first, on the market front, Dow Jones is down a little bit, so 280 points to 27,502 because of the Trump trade war. Could be for a lot longer than expected. That is, you heard it, BS. It has nothing to do with trade war, it has nothing to do with China, it has nothing to do with whatever. It has to do with the economy pumping more money, monetary methadone, into the system to get the desired result, to keep the markets moving in a positive direction. I mean, that is just a bunch of you-know-what. And of course, they have to continue it, because if not, things start to slide and they start to fall. On the market front, that was there. And now gold and silver, of course, really unchanged. Gold and silver around at 17.5, $1,476 an ounce, really unchanged there. Also, some articles here. Fourth quarter growth scare. So this one is from CNBC. It says that big fourth quarter growth scare. Yeah. Big fourth quarter growth scare. Let's see here. Fourth quarter growth scare. Looks like it's not happening. Jeff Cox. Just a few weeks ago, the economists have been expecting near zero growth for the fourth quarter. Positive surprises in economic data since they've changed their views considerably. Expectations now are growth in the 1.3 to 2% range. What a difference a couple weeks can make. A slowdown in the fourth quarter growth to near zero that appeared nearly inevitable has disappeared, fading even with manufacturing stuck in contraction. A closely watched Federal Reserve gauge that has been pointing to a Q4 fat line in mid-November as reverse course. Atlanta's GDP now indicating 1.3 growth percent, down from a high of 1.7% a week ago. The tracker had risen in recent days following the release, basically stating some personal incomes, durable goods, and housing data. You know what that is. We're just pumping more money into the system. Oh, we're surprised. We're surprised that the economy's turning around. You know, the next article that I'm showing you here, that's a bunch of, you guessed it, BS. Overall, though the picture for Q4 does not look nearly as bleak as it did previous 2 months. Continued pressure from U.S.-China tariffs. A slowing global economy and low inflation levels had raised fears that the year that started off with a 3.1 GDP gain would end with basically nothing. It no longer appears to be the case. We went from recession scare earlier this summer, then to a growth scare, what I would argue is settling ourselves up for a pretty solid 2020. But these people are really delusional, in part because the high frequency data isn't as bad as people thought. Oh, you mean the $75 billion in repo treasuries that were sold between banks back in September when the repo overnight rate went up to 10%? Oh, everything's okay. Nothing to be wrong with. Can't do anything about that. Don't look at that. Have I said it before? I said it again. They're just keeping this Ponzi scheme going. Now, what they're going to be doing, of course, is they're going to be printing more monetary methadone and digital receipts to keep the bubble going. It's like a drug addict. It's the same thing if you're basically a desperate person. Everything's fine. Everything's great. I just got a loan for $10,000. Things are going well. I just bought a new range and refrigerator and everything. My economy's doing really well. But it's not. 80% of the GDP in the United States is consumer goods. So if people actually started saving, actually starting putting 20 to 30% weight of their disposable income into savings, you would see the economy collapse. So we can't afford for people to save. No, we can't do that. So we're going to charge negative interest rates, so it keeps money in your bank. You have to pay them to keep it in the bank. Long ago, the days when you can actually have money in an account, you know those people that were old? Yeah, well, who are they? Oh, yeah, the greatest generation, yeah. They retired not on a 401k. They retired on that thing. What was it called? Oh, a savings account. Yeah, savings account. Right. You had a savings account that gave you 6 to 7% interest, 5% interest, and you can go to Florida and get your white pants and play shuffleboard. Those days are gone. Banks don't need your money anymore. They can print it up at will, repo markets, all this stuff. Oh, you can be in the 401k. Great. Asset prices are going up. But the real economy, the people that are here, as Max Kaiser would say, is the interest rate apartheid, where you have people that are in the investing and finance business. They're getting first chunks at the dollar, meaning if they get $1 billion loan for 0%, they can go out in a private equity firm and go ahead and buy up assets, and then of course charge you 15 to 20% on a credit card. Or even worse, if you're in a cash advance state, they'll charge you a 150 to 3,000% interest rate. That's what I call the casino gulag, as Max Kaiser would put it, and that's what it's looking like right now. So everything looks great on the surface, but I mean, this is just ridiculous. I mean, basically, yeah. It also says here in the article, manufacturing lags. No shit. Monday, however, brought a fresh reminder the U.S. economy is far from clear. Everything's great! Oh, there's a possible recession. We can't let that happen. What we're going to do is we're going to get rates down to 0. We're going to kill the dollar, but that's okay. You know, when gas is $12 a gallon, because you killed the dollar. Why do you think they're drilling so much in the United States right now? I think it's probably because they know the age of the Saudi Arabia Nixon Kissinger Compact of 1974 is coming to an end, where the United States, basically, they went off the gold standard with Nixon in August of '71. Nixon said to Saudi Arabia, said basically, look here, all right, you give us your oil in dollars, and if you need us to fight any wars for you, we'll help you out, but don't do anything too rash. Capisce? And the Saudis said that, but the Saudis don't need the United States anymore because of China. Even though China is doing really well, in a lot of respects, they are in a bigger danger than the United States is, because they've built up so much from a rural to an urban population now that their economy could be worse, far worse off in the future and collapse. Of course, that'll be when the United States, of course, they dump the U.S. treasuries and those will become worthless, probably in the next year or two. Because I love these people that say, oh, Kamala Harris is out. It's going to be Warren. Warren's going to beat Trump and all this stuff. I mean, unless Trump gets removed from office, which is highly unlikely, they would have to have the Senate to get the votes. They might be able to pass it through the House of Representatives, but not through the Senate. You know, and don't get me wrong, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in either party, but I would say this is that, you know, impeachment is very constitutional. I mean, it is a check and balance against the authority of the executive. That's why there is impeachment. I think that so many of our leaders have not been impeached. I think it was like 24 or 25 leaders since 1776 have been, or 1789 when the first Constitution came out in 1787. Only 29 government officials have ever been impeached. I mean, it should be more. I mean, it's not meant to get somebody out of office, but it's to be a check and balance. That's why the founders put that there, for that reason, so that way the authority of the state does not get unabated. That's the reason for separation of powers. I mean, that's why there's an executive. That's why there's a legislative and a judicial branch of government, not chambers, as occasional cortex would say. But bottom line is it doesn't matter. You can sit there and say all day, it's like putting a lipstick on a pig or putting a bow on a pig. It's still a pig. The economy is not the best economy in the history of the United States. It's not the best economy ever. That was probably anywhere between the Gilded Age and World War I, when you saw the biggest increase in the middle class. That was when you saw the best economy in regards to actual wealth being increased within the middle class. The middle class is shrinking every year, and the average household medium income is about $60,000. With inflation from 1980, it's pretty much the same. You know, it's probably like 37,000, but if you look at inflation, it has not increased. Cost of inflation, it's actually been pretty much leveled off. In the mid-90s, it kind of went up a little bit, but then after 2001, when they reduced rates to basically 1%, and then, of course, the 2008 crisis, when they were just buying all these securities that were, poop sandwiches, and then you had some of these corporations like, Wachovia. They were basically signing loans with their eyes closed, basically, not even looking at the paperwork, and that's what caused that process to fail. So, income has not gone up in the real world. Income has been stagnant. And the thing is, if you raise wage to $15 an hour for minimum wage, that'll basically crowd out the people that are 16, 17, 18, 19 years old going to college, getting a job that is actually within their purview for entry level. And then people more in their 20s and 30s in those type of jobs. So I don't believe that $15 minimum wage is going to help. I believe that if you didn't have a minimum wage, I think your skilled workers would be paid a lot more. So, for example, somebody who's a senior bill collector makes about $38,000 plus bonus. If you didn't have a minimum wage, they'd probably be paid, I would say, probably about $12,000 to $15,000 more. And that's just economics, because there's more in demand with the price. So that goes from market fluctuation. So yeah, you might be flipping burgers and making $3.50 an hour, but also too, if you didn't have minimum wage, prices would be lower. So if you go to a Subway or McDonald's, if you go to Subway and get a 6-inch a 6-inch sandwich, instead of it being $4.79, it would probably be about $2.99 or $3.50. So actually, prices would go down and contract to afford it to where you can do it. And then of course, cars, houses would go down, but the economy is set up to where asset prices have to continue going up and up and up, because if they go down, the economy goes down, and basically it's the banksters going, if we die, you die, because we're too big to fail. This is basically the hostile sheriff surrounded by town folk, and he has a gun to his head saying, "Don't move or the sheriff gets it." He's the sheriff. So that's basically the bankers. They're doing the same thing. But anyways, interesting story to that. Federal Reserve adds 90 almost $100 billion in short-term liquidity till the middle of next year. Wait a minute. It was only until the end of September. It was only until the middle of October. And then it was only until the middle of November. It's now December. Well, we're going to up it from 60 to 75 to 80 to now 100 billion. Till the middle of next year. It's going to be indefinite. It's not going to be until the middle of next year. It'll be until my children, my grandchildren die, because that's the only way the economy will continue to grow. Unfortunately, you do need a correction, and I don't know, any kind of psychiatrist would tell you to feel it to heal it, and sometimes you got to feel the pain. Sometimes you have to have a correction to heal it. But right now, we're a zombie economy. I mean, basically, you have these asset price bubbles, and we have this corporate debt that's huge. And basically, they're injecting the people, the corporations, with formaldehyde. Okay, as of 2008, formaldehyde, it's a walking corpse. Yeah, they're embalmed, and they still look alive, but they're not alive. That's what the corporations look like. And this is going to be a very deleterious effect on people itself. And final story for today, a little interesting story that I got from AP. This is hilarious, but it's really cool. Russian scientists present ancient puppy found in permafrost. Now this is hilarious. Russian scientists on Monday showed off a prehistoric puppy believed to be 18,000 years old, found in the permafrost in the country's far east. Discovered last year in a lump of frozen mud near the city of Yakutsk. The puppy is unusually well preserved, with his hair, teeth, and whiskers and eyelashes intact. You can see that picture I have up there. This puppy has all its limbs, pelage, fur, and even the whiskers. The nose is visible. There are teeth. We can determine to some data that is a male. Nikolai Androzov, director of Northern World Private Museum, where the remains are stored, at the presentation at the Yakutsk Mammoth Museum, which specializes in ancient specimens. So this, some of these pictures are, holy cow. You look at it, it's like good gravy. But anyways, So those are some of the stories here for the Eclectic News Hour. My name is Brian Budd, and of course we'll have a new report coming soon. Hey, as usual, I will see you soon.